Imagine a small country in Central America, about 6 million people, an economy tied to the United States dollar, and one day the president decides, we're making Bitcoin legal tender. That was El Salvador in 2021. President Nayib Bukele basically told the world, we're going all in.
I believe Bitcoin could be one of these ideas. That is why next week, I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador.
The IMF called it financial suicide. Wall Street laughed. But fast forward to today, and the story is much more complicated than a simple yes or no. Bukele is managing the national treasury from an app on his smartphone. The country is mining Bitcoin using the heat from volcanoes, and they're buying exactly 1 Bitcoin every single day. But why? Why would a nation with a struggling history bet its entire future on the world's most volatile asset? Is this a masterstroke of economic genius or a dangerous gamble with the lives of millions? To understand this leap, you have to understand the trap El Salvador was in. For decades, the country was synonymous with two things: extreme gang violence and total economic dependence. Since 2001, El Salvador hasn't had its own currency. They use the US dollar. This means when the Federal Reserve in Washington prints money, El Salvador feels the inflation but has zero say in the matter. They were looking for an exit strategy, a way to break free from the dollar trap. Bitcoin wasn't just a trend for them, it was a bid for financial sovereignty. Bukele's logic was simple but radical. Over 70% of Salvadorans don't have a bank account, but almost everyone has a smartphone. By making Bitcoin legal tender through the Chiva wallet, the government aimed to give millions of people instant access to the global economy. Then there's the issue of remittances. Salvadorans working abroad send back nearly $7 billion every year. Usually, companies like Western Union take a massive cut in fees. In theory, Bitcoin's Lightning Network could save these families hundreds of millions of dollars. That's money staying in the pockets of the poor instead of big financial corporations. But how do you sustain a crypto economy when the world turns its back on you? The answer is literally under their feet. El Salvador is the land of volcanoes. The government started using geothermal energy to power massive Bitcoin mining rigs. They aren't just buying it anymore. They are pulling it out of the volcanic heat. Bukele even announced Bitcoin City, a planned tax-free utopia at the base of a volcano, funded by Bitcoin-backed bonds. It sounds like science fiction, but for the tech investors flocking to the country, it's the future of finance. It hasn't been a smooth ride. When Bitcoin crashed in 2022, the media predicted a total collapse. The government was mocked, and the country's debt was labeled as junk. Even today, if you walk the streets of San Salvador, most people still prefer cash. The adoption hasn't been as instant as the government hoped. However, Bukele didn't flinch. He kept buying the dip. As Bitcoin hits new heights in 2026, El Salvador's portfolio is not just in the green, it's showing massive profits. They've already used these gains to build schools and state-of-the-art veterinary hospitals. El Salvador is no longer just a headline about crime. It has become the world's biggest economic laboratory. Whether this ends as the greatest turnaround in history or a cautionary tale, one thing is certain. El Salvador stopped playing by the world's rules and started writing its own. The experiment is far from over. So, what do you think? Is this the future of nations or a bubble waiting to burst? Let me know in the comments.